Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Internet Friends, the episode where we try to figure out who has the highest midichlorian count out of the three of us.
Not me.
Not me. I do not want to be a Jedi.
No,
It's fine, just be
God,
on a
no.
backwater planet where they don't know to even look for you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's another thing we can explore later on.
Oh, what? That governments don't care about regions that aren't giving them a lot of money? Yeah, no, that's
No,
not at all
absolutely not.
something that happens.
Oh yeah, no, like definitely is not related to any real world stuff. I'm here with Seth and Brie. It's been a long couple of weeks, but we're very glad to be together on this fine Friday evening. And very
It's
excited
going
to
a little
talk to you.
far,
So
but
what have you guys been up to?
I like being here.
Well, I'm required to be here, but yes.
Look, just because there's somebody off camera, like at gunpoint with you right now, doesn't mean you have to say it out loud.
Of course not.
Why do you think Seth's been getting his camera wider and wider to just be like,
Yeah, I'm trying to. I want them to slip up, and you can see the gun pointing in, and they were gonna hit me just now.
joke's on you, Bo's actually the gunman.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Look at him eyeing me right now.
Absolutely not for a border collie.
He said, keep talking.
Yep.
So what have you guys been up to?
Flavored whippets. I got
Oh,
real
yeah.
into that galaxy gas.
I'm
Wait,
just
for
very
real?
glad
Great way
that,
to-
you know,
No.
the
Like, tell me
vape
about it.
industry has finally figured out how to pivot into new ventures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Brie, are you unfamiliar with these? Have they not been all over your For You page?
They have not. Wait, I
We've
think
established
we
that
have
Bree's
very
For You
different
page is
algorithms.
super separate from ours.
It's true. I forget that I do a lot more drugs than either of you. Yeah, no. There's a company called Galaxy Gas that is making flavored nitrous oxide to go into like whipped cream things, and people are just using it for
To
whippets.
do whippets.
I've always thought whippets are so stupid just because I'm just like, it's such a short high. It just like, I don't know.
It
I
is.
want something that lasts a little longer. That just seems like if I'm going to get that much brain damage, I want it to have a lasting effect. Like,
I mean,
that
was the
seems...
thing that made Steve-O hit rock bottom was whippets. Like, that's what he was doing when they staged the intervention on him.
That's
Oh, wow.
it's not enough bang for your buck. You know what I mean? Like an edible will
No.
last me a good couple of hours and not cost me that much and not like fuck up my brain. Whippets, on the other
I was
hand,
about to say, like, it's
Doesn't make
sparing
sense.
those last two brain cells, whereas just like whippets puts a knife in the middle of the two of them. It's just like, all right, which one of you is coming out of this alive?
yep.
No, it throws the knife between them and says only one of you comes out alive.
Exactly.
There it is. No thanks.
Hey.
Woof.
What about you, Brie? What have you been up to?
Well, especially in the pre-show, it's been a very fucking rough week. Holiday weeks are the absolute worst. Every day I thought I could leave early. I in fact did not leave early, including today. And I'm tired, but I have next Friday off, so I just have to wait at the however many days until then. So single tear.
I think the standard wait is 7. I think that's the standard wait of days between one Friday to the next.
Yeah, well, the caveat is if that actually happens. So I'm hoping that it's just 7 days. It may not be. So
Oof.
Well, see, what you
Yes.
do, Seth, is that you get to your Friday and then you start your whippets and then you lose like 3 or 4 of those days. And then you
That's
just
true,
have to
yeah.
survive the next few.
Yeah. Yeah.
we love.
Yeah, no, it's mostly just been work for me. A lot of fun stuff happening. It's birthday and anniversary month for me and Em, so like, you know, a whole bunch of
Oh.
stuff going on. We went to a Star Wars burlesque show in DC last week, which, by the way, driving in DC, I would rather shoot myself.
Sounds awful.
And we're going to Ren Fair tomorrow, so that should be a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Emily's put a lot of work into my costume, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice. When's your anniversary?
It's literally the day before my birthday.
Oh, that's convenient.
When's your birthday?
Public information.
Yes.
Doxing,
And your social.
Yeah, so my social
what's your-
security
Slowly,
number
please.
is, and then my mother's maiden name, the street, you know, the address I grew up at, all that stuff.
At current address, I need that too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And please give me the 3 numbers on the back of the card as well.
Longitude and latitude is where I currently reside.
Yes.
But yeah, no. So yeah, all that stuff's going on. We're doing a lot of stuff early, but you know, it's definitely been a crazy couple of weeks, but it's been fun. So I'm pretty happy with all of that.
Good.
So
Nice.
mentioned that we went to a Star Wars burlesque show, which is perfect segue into the fact that I got to pick the homework assignment this week, and I made Seth and Brie watch Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Indeed, you did.
1999 reintroduction into Star Wars that we all got, and there's a lot of stuff to say about it. Some good, some bad. But the thing I'm most interested in is, Brie, this is your first time ever seeing this movie. So yes. I actually am very curious about what you thought.
Yes, and so just for quick context, I know I mentioned this before, but I saw the Star Wars movies, like the main ones, for the first time when I was 26. So a relatively new fan, new-ish fan. I hesitate to say fan, but, you know, aware of the series.
Yeah. You enjoyed watching them when you watched them.
Correct. Yes, exactly. And then I did the machete method, which purposely cuts out Episode 1, because what they argue is that it does not have any new or pertinent information that's not already addressed in the other films. Yeah. And now that I've seen it, that is absolutely correct. If I had to summarize this movie, I would say it's pointless. What a pointless fucking movie. And it is allegedly 2 hours and 11 minutes. It feels way longer. It took me about 4 hours to finish this movie because of how many breaks I had to take. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I will say, I think there's a good movie in there somewhere. They just made a lot of very stupid decisions and decided, hey, you know what would be the best thing if we made this political intrigue and the most boring fucking thing on the planet. It is such a slow fucking movie. So I'm gonna leave it at that for right now because I have a lot of other notes, but I'm interested what you all want to say as well.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback off of this. So you talked about like a lot of the problems. What did you like about the movie?
Let me scroll down here.
I got to get through a lot of notes before I can find that.
I know you love Roger Roger from when we watched Clone Wars. So
that is my second note, Roger Roger.
Luckily, that was very early on, so we got it out of the way.
I said, yes, Roger Roger. I do say that IRL all the time now, and I would say like a solid 5% of people get the reference, so that's all I need, really.
I think I need to pick specific arcs for you guys to watch for Clone Wars, like not watching full seasons, but like, hey, watch this arc.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Hold on, I'm trying to find a positive note. Oh, I will say, I think there are some tender emotional moments in this. Like the moment where Anakin says goodbye to his mom, it actually got a little emotional because I was like, wow, he's like, I'm never gonna see you again. Like what a huge impact for a little boy to know that this is the thing he needs to do, and his mom just having to accept she has to let her son go because this is what I'm like. That moment, I was like, that's actually super impactful. And I will say, I feel like that little boy gets a lot of shit for his acting, and I feel like he's just acting like a little fucking boy. Kids are so fucking weird. That's fair. I feel like he got shit on a lot in some of the reviews. I saw it, I'm like, he just seems like a kid to me.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I think, and there's been a lot of stuff about Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Bess's performance as Jar Jar as well, where it's just like they've gotten a lot of shit throughout the years, and they did not deserve it.
No.
Nothing about the way that this movie came out was their fault. And they in no way deserved any of the hate that they got.
Someone who did, though, was Natalie Portman. She was awful in this movie.
Yes, I was shocked.
I'm kidding. No one deserves hate for a role.
No.
It might be direction. George Lucas, bad director? No.
Yeah.
Could be.
Okay, well, okay, so Seth kind of going in off of Bree's thing, so she just talked about sort of her first impressions. You and me watched this, in our childhood, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this in theaters when I was
So do I.
when I was a wee child. I had all the original Star Wars on VHS and watched them religiously, and like original, like I had the no CGI dewbacks or like added stuff.
You didn't have the special editions.
No special editions. It was like all like original stuff on VHS, so that's why I remember growing up watching. And so like watching this as a kid, it's just like, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Great. It's amazing. Looking back at it now in hindsight, I remember watching this, I would probably say like late high school, early college. It's like, you know what? I see what a lot of people were saying about how this wasn't good. But there's still...
I loved it.
Yeah, but there's still the nostalgia spot
No, I
in my
mean
brain.
this viewing.
Oh,
I
yeah,
loved this viewing.
I actually enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed watching it. I agree with Brie. There are problems. There are many problems. But I actually stopped taking notes at one point because I was enjoying watching it so much.
Yeah.
I gotta be real with you. I also don't hate Jar Jar. I think he's worse in everything but this movie.
Agreed, 100%.
I want to go that far, but I do agree with you, because I remember the last viewing I had, because I started doing like full view throughs before seeing the new sequels, and I remember one viewing of this where I was just like, man, this does not hold up, and it's still like there's definitely portions where you're just like, man, that does not hold up nearly as well as it used to. Like, especially in the cinematography department.
Yeah, the slavery does not hold up in modern age.
Well, I'll get into that in a minute. But there is like specific things where it's just like, but the specific viewing, I was like, I mean, I'm along for the ride. This is fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, actually. Surprisingly, I'm looking through my notes. Actually, one note I have is, I think I'm the only one who actually likes this movie.
No, I still like this movie.
Another note I have is this 10-year-old talking up a 14-year-old. Very weird. Not cool. That was weird, the age in that relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of this goes into the things, and I have this written on the doc. Seth included a link to the making of documentary of this movie, The Beginning. It was featured on Blu-ray and DVD sets back in the day. It's now available online. You can watch it on YouTube. But very specifically, a lot of my notes actually kind of went along with this, and I think this was, especially the 10 to 14-year-old gap on it, was, again, very central to, I think, the biggest problem with the prequels is nobody was around to tell George Lucas. It's like, is this a good idea?
Well, you see it on the faces of a few of the people, but it at that time point, we forget now, but at that time point, George Lucas was looked at as a genius.
Yeah, no.
So everyone else is going,
how do you say
he did
no
Star
to George
Wars,
Lucas?
he did Indiana Jones.
Yeah, how do you...
I guess we'll just go along with it.
And that was the thing, is that nobody felt like they had the agency to push back on some of his ideas. Like, literally the first thing out the gate when he's like talking through the storyboards, he says it's just like, Jar Jar's the key to this whole thing. And you can see on some of their faces, it's just like, I don't think this character is gonna work as well as you think it's going to. And you saw that throughout the documentary, is that basically whenever George Lucas was in the room, it's just like nobody pushed back on anything he said. They basically were just like, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. We'll do the thing.
Yeah.
And like,
well, and I think some of that comes from the, like, how much people fought against the original Star Wars, how hard it was for him to get that pitched.
Yeah.
And then that ended up being amazing. So I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm not seeing it. But it'll all come together.
But that's the thing, though, is like in the original trilogy, he had other people and other voices and other like things getting inputted. His ex-wife did the editing on A New Hope and literally changed that entire movie from what it originally was. Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, he didn't direct those movies. Those were directed by other people. Some of the biggest moments in those movies were not his idea. The I love you, I know moment in Empire Strikes Back, that wasn't George Lucas. That wasn't his idea.
Yeah, that was Harrison Ford.
Yeah, just you know, it's one of those things where sometimes when you have people who have a certain level of experience and a certain level of, clout, I guess, for lack of a better word, it feels hard for some people to push back on them. But honestly, they perform better when they have somebody just being like, hey, let's rethink this.
Yeah.
Let's maybe go back to the drawing board. It's like, do we really need all of this stuff? Do we maybe pare it down? Because I think all of our points, there's a good movie at the core of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of George Lucas-esque things that didn't get pushed back on and cut out to make like the core of the movie as solid as it was. Like, I would have made Anakin a little bit older at the beginning of the movie, like 12, 13, like minimum. Like, make him a little bit closer to how old Luke would have been in the beginning of the trilogy. I would have maybe done a better job of communicating what the galaxy's politics are like, because they're very confusing in this film.
One of my last notes is they elected a queen. I don't think that's how queens work.
Yeah, exactly. It's so confusing. It's just like Queen Amidala. It's just like, oh, so like, she's royalty, she's a queen, and then like it's like, oh, now she's the senator. It's just like, isn't that a step down? Like, how does that work? It's like, oh no, they elect their queen. It's just like, well, then that's not a queen. Last I checked.
No.
Just, yeah, again, very confusing, and something that, again, like, somebody should have gotten some level of clarification on. And, I think the thing was, like, George Lucas 100% had wanted to make, like, more of a political thriller than he wanted to make a Star Wars movie.
I see that.
But he had to package it inside of what we identify as a Star Wars movie. So, like, you have to have the lightsaber fight. You have to have the space battles. You have to have all the other kind of stuff that kind of goes along with that. And it's hard to tell that kind of story in that context.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you can in a sci-fi world. I just think he tried doing too much.
Yeah. And I think, and this is something that I think has been brought up, especially in like production of the Clone Wars and, stuff that they were able to flush out in that show, where they talked about just like George Lucas had everything in his head of what he wanted this to be. He just maybe did a very bad job of communicating it in the 3 movies that he had to do. And the prequels suffer.
Yeah, it should have been more.
Yeah, and the prequels suffer from a lot of problems, specifically when you consider the fact that, they're, between this movie and Attack of the Clones, it's a 10-year time jump. There's a 3-year time jump between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and you don't get to really see any of the character development. You don't get to see any of the relationship development. Everything feels super rushed and doesn't necessarily get fleshed out in an appropriate way. And again, some of those political aspects that he was trying to maybe shoehorn in don't come across when you're trying to tell, 2.5 hour long movie stories that are supposed to be spanning over 2 decades.
Yeah. Brie, what are some of the things that didn't work for you?
So let me just scroll down here. I did want to mention really quick, because I did find the one other positive note I had on this, because I have exactly 2.
Aside from Roger.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Roger's the 3rd. You know what? You're right. I do love those droids.
Good things come in 3s.
Yes. You're so right. So all I mentioned was I do like them establishing Anakin's kind nature, because I feel like that is like genuinely the only benefit to him being like showing him at this young, like as a character. Because to your point, I'm like, do we need to see him as a kid? Like, does that really matter at all? But honestly, I do like the parts where we see like he really cares about the people he's around. Like he is offering to help these strangers that he doesn't know at all. And I think it is nice to establish that, just because I know we talked before. Like, I think Anakin is a super fucking interesting character, and I love, I love that he's like he loves the people he loves, and that's actually his downfall.
His biggest problem is that he cares.
Exactly, and I think that's actually super interesting for a villain. Like, he had the potential to be so much better, and I like that we got to see some of that. Like, he's just a nice kid, and he's this young and he's being this altruistic, like from the get-go. Again, just like willing to help these strangers for no fucking reason and really not a lot of benefit to himself. I think that's nice. But in terms of what doesn't work for me, and I will say, to the movie's credit, I didn't really get bored until about like the 50-minute mark. I was pretty like engaged for a while because I was like, oh man, where's this building up to? But and I feel like I might hurt some people with this, but like the pod racing, all of that was so boring and so drawn out because I'm just like, what are we doing again?
Okay, so I'm going to ask, did you watch the original version or the extended cut version?
Whatever is on Disney Plus.
And you watched the extended cut version. They did drag that out way too long in the extended cut
that
version.
Is good to know.
Because the extended cut version, like, they go through all the different pod racers and like do the introductions and stuff. Whereas like in the original version, like you don't see any of that. It's just like,
oh, why did they add that?
Because George Lucas.
Yeah, he's always changing something.
That is because George Lucas always goes like, oh hey, I made a thing. What if I added more to it years later?
Yeah.
And not improve any of the things.
Is the alien that goes "Run!" before it crashes in the original cut, or is that extended exclusive?
That might be extended, actually.
Like,
so
that
good.
was
the little head, and then yeah, I love that. That's a vocal tick of mine that I do from time to time. It's just randomly do.
You just don't randomly make the R2 scream or the Wilhelm scream.
I can't do those.
I do randomly do the R2 scream. I do it constantly when I run into things in my boyfriend's apartment, and it's great. He loves it.
I also like to say, now this is pod racing while orgasming.
I like to say this one's
not
for
my
the gamers.
Joke.
Or alternately, this let's go gamers. Either way, we got options. But Star Wars.
I like to ask, chat, is this on Skibbity when she's going down on me?
I quit.
It's not my fault this time.
Hey, we did it.
I think we're about at 60-40 there.
Perfect.
Don't ever tell me the odds.
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, like, my biggest thing is this movie's just too fucking long with not enough content in it. The things that I thought would be cool were not that cool. Darth Maul, I was really fucking excited for. And a couple of things. He is in this movie for less than 15 minutes. That is confirmed.
He pulls a Beetlejuice.
I thought he was going to be, because I feel like he was on so much of the like promotional material. I feel like people talk about him so much.
They promoted the hell out of Darth Maul when this thing was coming out. I had the Darth Maul lightsaber. There was like a sippy cup that I had, like, at the time, where it was like Darth Maul's head. Like,
yeah, I know, I get the concept, but a sippy cup?
I was 7.
What, did you drink out of one of his horns?
Yes. Oh, that'd be cool. Wait, that's dope.
I had a C-3PO mug, and it was like the C-3PO in the movie, so like no plated armor. It was like all the wires and things, and there was also a Jar Jar mug that we had in my house.
Oh, neat.
Fun.
I also had Qui-Gon's lightsaber back in the day.
And now you've touched on an issue of mine. Qui-Gon Jinn should not exist in this movie. Him as an character entirely is pointless.
Yes.
Yeah.
His death is very anticlimactic too. Like, I want to care about this, but I don't know who he is. And he's just kind of like, steal children's blood, which I thought was very interesting, and like it's just a chill, normal Jedi thing that I guess you do, just stealing kids' blood. I said, okay, very casual. Also, something I wanted to mention, because the first time Darth Maul is on the scene, and he jumps right next to fucking Liam Neeson, I was like, whoa, is Darth Maul a tiny itty bitty man? Is he 5'2"? Because he looks so small.
Ray Park is very short. He also played Toad back in the day.
That's exactly what my partner said. But Liam Neeson is also Liam Neeson is 6'4".
He is.
So
yeah, he's very tall.
Yeah, the guy who plays our Darth Maul, he's 5'9", so he's shorter, but like comparatively, I was like, oh, he's such a tiny itty bitty man.
We got so used to Tom Cruise having to like never be shot like from a low angle that like anybody who's like actually tall is just throws us all off.
Correct. Yeah. It just made it took the bite, especially so not only that, one of the other first scenes he's in, sorry, my cat just wants to show his butthole yet again.
Gotta get that OnlyFans money.
Got to. But Darth Maul like hops on a very tiny little moped and like speeds away. I was like, that's just not doing it for me.
No.
You might as well get on a unicycle and just pedal away, because that was about the intimidation factor. I was like, okay, yeah, this is not working. But he's not
that
in it.
lightsaber fight though.
It was okay. I feel like it's not their best fight choreography at all. Like that felt very like, okay, you hit here and then hit here, back up.
I do kind of see that.
Yeah, 100%.
My favorite
more than any,
my favorite choreography of the whole movie is just Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. But it does. I see what you mean.
It
can be a little all right, click, click, block, click, click.
Yes.
Yeah. No, they definitely did a good job on the Obi-Wan v Maul, like the final portion of that. Like they captured the energy and the anger and that scene a lot better. Whereas like, I think you're right. Like the rest of the choreography was very like hit here, hit here, hit here, keep backing up as you go. Like, well,
especially with Qui-Gon Jinn, because like I feel like him dying, like he just had his arms up here, and I was like, but just put him down. But he's like, oh, my organs, ouchie.
There's a scene like that in Attack of the Clones when Anakin gets his arm cut off. Mm-hmm. If you watch that scene closely at all, he literally goes like this and then just opens his arm up and gets it chopped off. That's the choreography.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Like no block, no trying anything, just block. Oh, my arm.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, it's really funny how a lot of people criticize the sequel trilogies like fight choreographies so much, but like praise like the prequels and like all the crazy like fast-paced stuff that they do. But like when you actually look at it, the sequels actually had like sensible sword fighting choreography going. Like those were actual like movements and attacks and kind of stuff like that, and like how people actually would fight. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, you know, the sequels very much were just like lots of spins, just twirl those lightsabers around, and then just have them hit every now and again.
Yeah,
and so, you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, I guess different perspectives.
That part in Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting, and they both just twirl their lightsabers for a minute.
My favorite thing is like seeing people post like the GIF where they're doing that. And it's just like them twirling their lightsabers back and forth, but they never do like the final clash of it. It just goes loop. Just illustrating how incredibly like ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
I did have two more small notes. One, I wish they, I guess, I don't know. I wish they did a better job disguising the fact that the Queen and Padme are the same person, like that they switch out or whatever. Because the face is never well hidden. So I'm like, yeah, that's fucking Padme, obviously. Like, and I got the information is the same in the second movie, so this reveal didn't like do anything for me, anyways. But I'm like, they have the same fucking face. Like, I just don't.
Are you insinuating that Keira Knightley and Padme and Natalie Portman look exactly alike when they're teenagers?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
I agree with that. One of my notes is Keira Knightley taking full advantage of being the Queen by making Padme clean R2.
That was so funny to me when I saw it this time. It was one of those things like I've ignored so many times since seeing it. Just like, yes, I am the Queen right now. Padme, go clean the droid. That's 100% a move I would do if I had to play the doppelganger and everybody has to believe that I am the sovereign here. I'm just like, you, actual sovereign who was elected, go do this.
No question, the dirtiest work available.
Go work harder than you ever have in your entire life.
Exactly.
I'm going to be over here trying on new outfits for the next scene.
That was another note I had, that it was very kind of them to let her have an outfit change before she got kidnapped. She's like, yeah, for sure you can take me, but like this isn't it. So if we could just not a good kidnapping wear.
It's like, no, not the good dress.
I also like that a note I have here is that Jedis are so dumb. I can't train this kid. He misses his mom. Like, say it out loud, friends.
Yeah. I also love that the test they put him through is the equivalent to the card test that Bill Murray's doing. Yeah, it's the card test Bill Murray's doing at the opening of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, oh, he's good. But he misses his mom, though. That sucks. He'll never be a Jedi. Also, Qui-Gon, a note I have is the first place he goes to, Guado's, is like, I'm the only one in town who has a hyperdrive. And he's like, okay, I guess I won't look at a single other store.
Right.
And I'll just believe
Not
what you're
even
saying.
gonna bother to cross shop.
Yep, not at all. Maybe there's another store that does take galactic credits.
I mean, like,
maybe
if Guitar Center doesn't have it, who else is gonna have it?
Right? They're the only store around. The guy told me so.
Must be true. We got a pod race, I guess.
It's true. I do love the sound design in that pod race.
It is.
I love how each one has different like I like it. Doing a lot of sound effects today.
I mean, we did watch a Star Wars.
That's true.
A Star Wars, yes, absolutely.
But I mean, a lot of the kind of like critiques, like we're obviously critiquing from like a place of like our adult brains looking at this, but like give credit where credit is due to George Lucas. Like he understood it's just like this is a kid's movie.
That's true. And it very much is a kid's movie.
Yeah. He understood like the fact that it was just like, I'm making this for kids. I made the original Star Wars for kids. You go back to the original trilogy, it's just like, yeah, adults watched it and they felt like this was a really stupid movie. And kids were just like, that was awesome.
Kids love political intrigue. They absolutely do. It's their favorite thing.
Yes.
But like, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's one of those things where like, and we talk about with the sequels, like I've talked about it beforehand. It's like, I don't know how the sequels are going to go with the younger generation because I don't think it was made for kids. Mm-hmm. It was made for the fans, but it's not what the fans wanted.
Yeah.
Whereas, at least the prequels, which is why they've had kind of a renaissance over the last few years, is the fact that they were made for the kids of the time. They weren't necessarily made for like the traditional Star Wars fans.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. Which kind of leads into this was kind of like one of the first big nerd properties to kind of get released in what we now know as the internet age. And there was a lot of baggage that came with that. We kind of touched on it earlier with, the amount of hate that Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best got it. For playing Jar Jar and young Anakin, and a lot of people also were shitting on George Lucas at the time, rightfully so. Let's not pretend, but there's also like a certain amount of rose-tinted glasses people have now for the prequels and being like, George Lucas should have never sold it. It's just like, you guys were like calling for this guy's head when he was releasing these movies, and now you're trying to act like he should have never gave it up. So like, pick a lane.
Yeah. Well, and it went from, I hinted to this earlier, it went from he's a genius, he's a brilliant filmmaker, to episode 1 and episode 2 come out and it's, fuck this loser. Who the fuck screwed up Star Wars?
Yep.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. Both things can be true. George Lucas was a visionary. He created this universe and he had a lot of forethought back in the day. Because he made the movies, he got funding from it for Fox, but he maintained ownership over the property. He wanted to make it his way, and he specifically went against Hollywood to the point where he became Hollywood. Everybody went to ILM for their visual effects. Everybody goes to Skywalker Ranch for their sound design. Everybody came through Lucasfilm in order for funding and producer stuff. His best friend.
Well, and in that documentary, he says, like, we don't just have to figure out how to do these big CGI battles and, you know, all the green screen and everything for this. if we do it well, everyone's going to be coming to us and wanting it.
He understood
and these movies were the start of green screen.
Yeah, and
really,
he understood the fact that like what he was doing is just beta testing new technology for ILM and Skywalker Ranch and everything else that they do.
How very James Cameron of him.
Yeah, like he knew that like he had to be the one to do it because he's the one who had the funds to do it. He's the one doing it as a Star Wars movie. It's like even when you get to Attack of the Clones, a big selling point was whatever camera he was going to use to make the Star Wars prequels were going to basically be the biggest cameras in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so like
I think if I remember correctly, Attack of the Clones was the first movie shot all on digital.
All digital.
Correct?
That was a big selling point at the time.
Mm.
And so it was one of those things where like, you know, I always kind of said with the like prequels, people said say something really good about the prequels. I always said it's like, look, it pushed film technology to where it is today. Like we wouldn't have a lot of stuff that we have, especially in terms of like digital filmmaking now without the prequels. Whether
Gollum
you like it or
wouldn't
not
have existed without Jar Jar.
And like, I mean, Jar Jar was a big, you know, you saw in the documentary, it's just like how we do motion capture now and how we do like digital animation and CGI. Like we wouldn't have that stuff without what they were doing on Jar Jar. It was a bad character.
Mm-hmm.
And like not very well written, but in terms of the techniques that were used, super revolutionary at the time.
He's also barely in it for how mad people got about it. That blows my mind too, because I'm just like, he's annoying, no doubt. I hated every time he was on screen, but he's not on screen that often for how much people talk about it. I was like, oh, I thought he was the main character of this fucking film because people get so mad about it. I was like, oh no, he's here in bits and pieces. Doesn't really matter.
This is when basically
I had forgotten that too.
Yeah, this is when they didn't understand how comic relief was supposed to work, where they inserted him in places he did not need to be.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like it was always like a very jarring, just kind of like, and now that we had this big piece of exposition, Jar Jar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do something
also,
stupid.
Did Qui-Gon really save his life? Or because that thing was moving really slow, and I feel like it just would have pushed him over, and then he would have laid under it.
Again, George Lucas writing.
Fair.
Yeah. But you know, Brie...
my favorite part of the documentary, just to say this real quick, is when he's bringing Steven Spielberg around to show him some of the models.
Yeah.
And the big Roger bot.
Yeah.
And then they're both just standing there going, "It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great." And yeah, it's going to be great. And they just keep repeating, "It's going to be great" to each other over and over again. I love it.
It's literally watching two guys who had their egos inflated so much over the last 20 years that, like, we're so great. Don't you think we're great? It's what I imagine what would happen if you ever saw Steve Jobs and Bill Gates in the same room. It's just like, we make so much money.
We're great. Also, Steve, why do you smell like that? Ugh.
No one's going to understand that joke but you.
No one is, unless you listen to the Behind the Bastards 4-parter. Yeah, no one's going to understand that.
We love referential humor that nobody gets the reference of.
I mean, that's the backbone of this podcast. Ava?
Truly.
That's the backbone of my life. Ava.
But hey, Duel of the Fates still slaps.
It's a great song. Dun, 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 dun. You don't like it, Brie?
Sure.
I just don't want to argue anymore.
Like I had to sit through this whole movie for this 4-hour movie. I'm pretty sure.
Look at it this way: you never have to watch it again, Brie.
I don't. And I will say it did make me appreciate, well, okay, I want to mention two things really quick, because I just saw this note and I forgot about it. I don't know if anybody noticed, but when Qui-Gon Jinn dies, he does a cool little somersault right after he gets stabbed. And I don't know. Yeah, please watch it, because he gets stabbed this way and then he somersaults forward. And I was like, there's no reason he should have done that.
We need to figure out how to position this body in this exact way. Leah, when you die, do like a tuck and roll.
And then genuinely, that's what I had to I went back because I was like, I'm sorry, did he just somersault after getting stabbed? And I was like, oh yeah, no, he did 100%. So watch that back because I thought it was very funny. And again, it kind of added to the anticlimacticness of his death. But yeah, I forgot the other thing I was going to say. But it made me appreciate, because I will say I'm a little more because maybe I saw them way later. I don't hate 2 and 3 as much as a lot of people do. I actually like episode 3 quite a bit. I think again for the emotional impact in there, I think there's a lot of like really heartfelt moments. It is buried by a lot of poor direction and like shitty slapstick comedy and things like that. But like the emotional core that is there is really good. So I'm just like,
Ray genuinely, out of the prequel trilogy, gets probably the most love out of all of them.
Mhm.
For the most part, I think that's when they finally hit their stride. It was just maybe a little too late.
Yes.
I will say, and we've watched it before on the show, Clone Wars does a very, very good job of fleshing these characters out and understanding some of the logic behind what was going on. And creating characters that make you actually care about what's going on versus like, again, like these movies, you know, they're spaced out a little too far. A lot of the character development doesn't happen on screen. So, you know, watch Clone Wars. That's my recommendation to everybody.
What do you think of the Phantom Menace? Watch Clone Wars.
Watch Clone Wars. Basically, yeah.
But no, I agree. I think episode 3 is the strongest of the prequels.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one in years.
Well, I won't pick it, so don't worry about it. You better keep thinking about it.
I have to make at least 3 other picks before I do another Star Wars. That's, I believe, the unofficial rule.
That's yeah, okay.
Starting now.
I'll make a rule about not making religious stuff be our homework.
Don't make rules that you can't follow.
But that's like my whole thing.
Anyways, where's my whippets?
Yeah.
Whippet break. If they could sponsor us, listen, I'll do a whippet then.
I don't know what we have to do to get sponsored by illicit substances, but we'll figure it out.
I honestly, if you do it, I want
Technically,
to be very
nitrous oxide
hokey.
isn't a controlled substance, so I guess it's not technically illegal.
We could get sponsored by a weed house, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
Or something.
I want that so bad. I really want to be like, oh man, I'm so tired about talking about Star Wars, but you know what peps me right up? Whippets.
THC.
We're available. Anybody who's interested. Always, all the
We will
time.
take your money and your poisonous gas.
Please, and thank you.
Oh god.
Fun fact, just because religious and then immediate whippets brought this up. The reason I found out what whippets were as a teenager is because I was at a youth thing where we had ice cream and they had just the scoop whipped cream. And me and my friend walk up to this youth leader and we're like, hey, why don't you have the like one? And they're like, oh, because that can get you high. And me and my friend go,
What?
no. And then
Tell
this youth
me
leader
more.
tells us, this youth leader literally tells us how to do whippets. And we're like, I can't
Oh my
believe
God,
people do
really?
that.
That is astonishing information.
Funny.
It was real good.
Oh.
All right. So, overall thoughts of Star Wars Episode 1 Phantom Menace. There's a good movie in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But you got to go digging for it. Speaking of maybe something being good somewhere in there, Keith Lee bashing DMV food. This was the funniest thing on my timeline all week.
I love that you added this topic.
He's gotten in trouble a few times for bashing different cities.
He has. This is the most recent one, and I think it's the fact that it's in my neck of the woods made it funnier.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I did see that he was in Fairfax, I think, a week before this, and he did a spotlight on a spot, which actually looked really interesting. But I was like sitting there, just like, man, what the fuck is he gonna? Where's he gonna go in the DMV? Because DMV food kind of sucks. And sure enough, DMV food kind of sucks. So he specifically points out in the video that he does, crowdsourced recommendations, which he always does, and he went to several different places, and he mentions in the video that he does, like, I went to about 12 places, and I don't feel comfortable talking about some of them. And, like, there's maybe only, like, 3 or 4 that are worth talking about. The rest of them are just, like, I'm not going to be able to say anything nice, and if I say bad things about them, this could put them out of business. So I'm just not going to say anything, which I respect 100%.
Absolutely.
But the response online to this for him was so insane, and it was also very funny because you had 2 different camps. You had the camps of people who are basically like, DMV has good food, you just don't have a refined palate, and you don't go to these kinds of things, and all this other kinds of stuff. And then you had people, which in the camp I'm in, that was just like, yeah, no, DMV food sucks. And that specific camp is all people who, one, relocated to the DMV, which is me. So, like, I'm from the Southwest originally and moved out here. And it's just like, yeah, DMV food sucks. Or people who used to live in the DMV, moved away, and were just like, man, DMV food sucks. Like, food's way better where I moved to. And I noticed that specifically the people who were specifically trying to defend DMV food were basically people who had lived there their whole lives and, like, don't know any better.
Yeah. Stockholm syndrome is what we call that.
Basically. But, like, it was funny because it's just like, well, DMV's more of like a brunch place. Like, you know, you go and get, like, bottomless mimosas and eat, like, the crappy food on a Sunday and get drunk. It's like, well, he doesn't drink. And he even talks about that, like, yeah, some of these restaurants seem more focused on alcohol than they are, like, actual food. And it's just like, well, he needs to refine his palate. And it's just like, okay, well, we're a seafood area. He's allergic to shellfish. He can't eat that shit.
Literally cannot eat that.
He literally points out in a video where he got, like, fried chicken from a place, and he, like, was just like, I can't eat this. It smells of fish. And, like, turns out they fried the chicken in the same oil that they were frying the shellfish. It's like, that's not good.
That is so fucking gross.
That's a big no-no.
That's a big no-no. And he, like, pointed out, too, it's like there was a lot of places that were not being super sanitary. They were handling money and then preparing food, not putting on gloves or washing their hands. Just, like, yeah, and, like, and the entire thing, I was like, it's just like, yeah, no, like, yeah, there are a couple of decent spots in the DMV, but if you only have a couple of decent spots and, like, you can't get a good recommendation out of 12, it means you have a bad food culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
The DMV has a bad food culture. And, like, I know I'm biased coming from Albuquerque in the Southwest. Like, I can't go 2 blocks without getting a decent breakfast burrito. And, like, there's, like, always a good food culture. There's plenty of recommendations I have, and it's, like, hard to miss. The DMV is just like, I can't think of many places I would recommend to people. And some of the places I would recommend are not necessarily Keith Lee places I would recommend. A lot of it's, like, Korean bakeries and Korean barbecue type stuff. Like, you know, if you guys were to come out here, like, Brie, I would say, like, hey, come out to this Korean bakery me and Emily really, really love. They have plenty of vegetarian options and, like, pastry and type stuff. And, like, you can get, like, cute coffees and whatnot. It's a great time. You know, if you are more of a carnivore person like myself, it's like there's some decent Korean barbecue places. Those aren't takeout places, though.
Right.
And that's what Keith Lee does. And people telling Keith Lee that he has to have a more refined palate just to appease everybody else. I'm just like, no, fuck you.
That's kind of elitist, to be honest. And also, I feel like if you have that severe of a food allergy, you can't fuck around with that. Like, quite literally, people die from that all the time, from small exposure to stuff like that. Like, he's just being safe and protecting him and his family. And also with how fucking respectful he's been about it. Like, he could have put all those fucking restaurants on blast, and he just said, I'm just not going to talk about it. I feel like...
Which is common in food critics, where food critics traditionally were just like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to call this place trash and, like, basically, you know, get them shut down, make them lose, like, a Michelin star. Like, food critics traditionally are assholes. And he actively chooses not to be a dick about it. He's just like, all right, this wasn't my vibe. This wasn't my kind of place. I don't have anything constructive to say, and I'd rather not put a small business owner out of business just because I didn't have a good experience. That's not fair.
Yeah, he's always been like an unproblematic fave to me. I feel like I'm like every time people try to get him in controversy all the fucking time, and he's always so straightforward. I was like, he's not the one. Leave him the fuck alone. Like it's totally cool if you don't like his content or his reviews, but I'm like, he seems like a nice fucking dude. He donates money all the fucking time. He is so courteous, and he's very straightforward with his reviews. So I'm just like, leave the dude alone. And also, he loves Chicago, so
yeah, no, he did love Chicago. That is true. He was very positive towards them. He didn't like Atlanta, which I thought was curious, but I think that's probably similar to DC.
That was a huge controversy when he didn't like
people
Atlanta.
were comparing it a lot to his Atlanta experience, which I can kind of see because, like, you know, obviously Atlanta is like, you know, Southern comfort food kind of place, which is kind of his wheelhouse. But like, again, like that goes back to whether or not you actually have a good food culture. It's just like, if you have a good food culture, it's like it's hard to miss. Whereas like if you're getting a ton of recommendations and you're only finding one or two things that are really, really good, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But the thing that like bugged me a lot was people telling him that he has to have a more refined palate, and I was just like, no, the fuck he doesn't. Like,
it's literally his job. I think he's got a palate.
Yeah, regardless of if you agree with it, and this is a thing not just in food criticism, but like it's music, TV, movies, and kind of stuff, where it's just like, if he doesn't like a thing and you find that like his palate more or less aligns with yours, that actually helps you a lot of bit. If you find that like, oh, hey, I didn't really like this, it's just like, well, I found that the things that he doesn't like are things that I tend to like, so maybe I'll still give it a shot. That's totally fine. That happens in music reviews. If I know this person hates this kind of music, it's just like, well, typically when they recommend me not to listen to something, I end up liking it. Like, you curtail the taste. You can't force somebody to have a broader opinion about something just to spare your feelings. Like, that's not fair, and it's not what needs to be happening. But yeah, the amount of people telling him that he has to refine his palate or he needs to start hiring people to do like his research for him and his cultural things for him is like, no. The entire point that he did for starting to do like this national food tour is like he wanted to do shit his way. And I respect the fuck out of that.
And give back, and that's largely what he does. And I feel like also like even when he tries things like he notoriously does not like sweets, but he'll like preface it, be like, I don't like sweets, but I think this would be good if you do like these things. It's like, that doesn't make him a bad reviewer. Like, you're allowed to not fucking like things. Like, that's a-okay. Like, he just, and again, he's always very upfront with that information. I think that actually makes him a very good reviewer. So people are ridiculous.
And right. And like going back to the whole bashing seafood, DC, Maryland, Virginia food, and me thinking that he's right. It's just like, I have a bias. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We put green chili on fucking everything. You can't get a good breakfast burrito out here. There's no good pizza out here for my palate, like the way I like my pizza to be done. There's no good diner food out here, in my opinion, because I'm used to diner food in New Mexico. I understand that, like, I have a specific way of I enjoy food, and DC does not accommodate that based on what I grew up in.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where it's just like, I can't fault him. That being said, what do you guys think are some of the better food cities you guys have been to?
Ooh.
I have a worst one, and I'm going to offend somebody in here, unfortunately.
Oh, it's me, isn't it?
Denver has the worst food I've ever fucking had in every single restaurant I went to.
Yeah, we try so hard to be a food city, and we're just not.
Absolutely not. Go for the mountains and literally nothing else. I'm kidding.
I like our diners here. I do like our diners and like delis. We've got really good stuff like that. But there was a minute there where Denver was trying really hard to be a pizza city. We're not a pizza city. Like a lot of our more fancy stuff. Like there's a really popular both sushi and fish food, like just regular seafood restaurant fairly close to each other. We're in a landlocked fucking state.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to be that great. Stop trying to make that work. Yeah. But no, I agree. Denver doesn't have the best food.
Yeah. I had a kind of similar thought because like I'm from Albuquerque. I'm literally grew up 5 hours away from Seth down I-25. And like, yeah, like it's just like, why the fuck would I be trying seafood out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a literal fucking desert? Like, makes no goddamn sense. So when I moved out to the DC area, it's just like, oh, like sushi and seafood and crab, I'll try that kind of stuff. And I was just like, You guys aren't doing anything really that interesting. And then Maryland's just like, we have crabs, put Old Bay all in that stuff. It's just like, so like you just put a ton of salt in it and that's how you make it good. It's like, yeah, it's just like, you guys are doing it wrong. And then of course,
I believe it's called seasoning your food, white boy.
You don't want to have this fight with me, Brad.
No, I don't.
Do we want to talk about how garbage Colorado green chili is and you guys trying to make it seem like you guys have the best green chili?
It's not good.
That's not.
I never claimed that. Well,
your state keeps trying to claim it, and New Mexico is constantly just like, you realize we kill people, right? We have 3 heavyweight MMA champions in the wings ready to throw hands right now, buddy. You want to keep talking shit?
We're too high to fight, dude, says the guy who got in a fight with a homeless person on his way home from the bar once.
Oh, no. This week. Goodness.
But no, like, you know, I've been to Austin a few times.
That's why I was so quiet when you asked what I did this week.
Not fight a homeless person, that's for sure. Who said that?
Well, yeah, talking about like other food cities besides like DC and Albuquerque, where I've, you know, lived most of my life. Austin has pretty good food for the most part. You know, you can find really good spots all throughout. I haven't really been done too wrong when I've been out there. It's definitely more expensive than it should be. And I will give crap to my sister and my brother-in-law. They took me to a really fancy sushi place. I was just like, there's a lot of white people working in this sushi spot. Like, there's no Asian people working in the kitchen. That's a concern.
They've got YouTube pulled up on the iPad at the POS.
Basically. But it was fine, but it was definitely one of those things where I was just like, I like my hole in the walls more than anything else. Like, you know, I judge restaurants more on the quality of the food than the quality of the service.
Yeah. I will say there is a fantastic burger joint here called Crown Burger. Tiny little place, only one location. My favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
Very good.
Now, my favorite spot...
I saw a cockroach there last time I was there.
Yeah, it's just seasoning, Seth. Just seasoning.
Yeah.
No, like my favorite spot out here is a brewery, but they have a restaurant that it's not necessarily like a restaurant, but it's like a little attached kitchen that does like German and Polish style like hot dogs and sausage type stuff, and they have like really good food there, and that's my favorite go-to place. So Bree's cat says 5 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4
Yep.
4 4
Thank you for your contribution. I appreciate that.
Oh, did that just pop up?
Yeah,
it's fine.
I mean, what is the point of having a cat if they don't like crawl on the keyboard and type random shit for you?
Absolutely. It's his favorite thing.
But yeah, regionality, like what's like kind of a food region that you think is like really, really good?
Yeah, honestly, oddly, even though I've worked in a lot of restaurants, I've not thought about it much. I also haven't traveled very much in my adulthood.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Brie, I know you've done a lot of traveling. How's Canada's food?
I like Toronto's food.
Yes, actually, I was going to say, allow me to shit on French Canadians for a moment because, you know, they deserve it a lot of the time. When I went to Quebec, the food was, I would say, I think the worst food I've ever had was in Quebec. Everyone was so fucking rude. All of the food was absolutely fucking garbage. So fuck that so much. Hopefully, I mean, granted, that was a long time ago, but...
Quebec City or the province?
We went a couple different places in Quebec. Literally every place I went to had bad food, so I don't want to specify because it was all bad. So
yeah, all right. I was just gonna say it's a beautiful city. I love Quebec City, but yeah, food and people suck.
Yes, unfortunately. And again, I mean,
they're the worst of both worlds. They're both French and Canadian.
Well, here's the thing. Because at the time when I traveled there, I did speak fluent French. I don't any longer. They don't fucking care. Let me tell you, it's not a matter of like you not speaking the language because it's not, you know.
If you're not going to speak it, don't speak it. Yes. If you're not going to speak it right, don't speak it at all.
Correct. Yes, they have no patience for that.
That's
So
how
I'm
Mexico
hoping,
is. If you ever go to Mexico and try speaking Spanish, like if they like detect any hint of an accent, they're just like, shut the fuck up and speak English.
oh, interesting. I get it to an extent, but I'm like, I'm trying my best out here. But Toronto food is actually pretty solid. I have not had any bad food in any of those areas. There's actually a really great sushi place that me and my partner go to all the time. And they have a cute little robot that brings you the sushi. And I love that so much. And he smiles and winks at you. And I'm just like, oh, goodness.
That's awesome.
I think I
That's my
judge
favorite.
every area based on their diner food. If you can't find a decent like diner experience
Yes.
period, like you're basically in for a world of hurt anywhere because they can't do diner food right. I don't have confidence for you to do Chinese or Italian or Mexican or anything else right. If you can't do the basic, you can't do anything else.
That is the one thing I do not like Wisconsin, just as a rule. But a lot of really good diners. I've had some of the best fucking stuffed French toast of my life in like diners in Wisconsin. They just do that food right. I will say, but yeah, I'm spoiled and biased because I grew up near Chicago, right outside of Chicago. So I think we have everything here. I obviously love Chicago style pizza. Although I did just mention this to a friend because I have a friend from Michigan who was like, yeah, the pizza's terrible here. And I said, ma'am, I don't want to have to hurt you. Like that's a bullshit thing to
I was
say.
about to say, so curiosity, because I keep on hearing conflicting reports. Like, the thing I keep hearing is that people in Chicago don't actually eat Chicago pizza style,
Correct.
or like deep dish style Chicago pizza.
That is very much like, so if I had company, like if I had friends from out of town and they really wanted deep dish pizza, like I would go to Giordano's and we would get like the spinach stuffed pizza, and it's super good. But like on it, like we usually get pizza like every Friday, every other Friday. I would almost never get that kind of pizza like at all. I usually get I won't mention it because it's extremely local, but there's a pizza place that I love that has like a sweet sauce and they make Sicilian style and it's like really doughy, fluffy crust. And I used to get it when I was in high school all the time. And it was my favorite thing fucking ever. So like that would be more likely the pizza that I would get here. I think all of our pizza's fucking good, but because we're such a melting pot in Chicago, we have a huge Polish population.
Right.
We have a huge Slavic population. Like we have literally everything here and everything is so fucking good. So I love Chicago.
Yeah, no, and the thing I'll say about the DMV, and again, this kind of goes back to like not necessarily appealing to Keith, at least to have we have a very big Muslim population, so there's a lot of really good like halal kebab spaces out here. Like I said, the Korean barbecue is really good out here. That being said, I don't have a lot of reference for other places Korean barbecue, so it's been good to me, so I assume it's good. But like some of the staples, like I said, diners suck out here. Italian food sucks out here. Pizza sucks out here. Like, there's nobody really doing. Like our favorite Chinese spot closed down actually recently, and so we're mourning that death in the family right now.
That's always hard.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
But but specifically, what you need to kind of look at, I think, more is like what are the actual cultures that have melted into your area, and those are the places that you should go to, not necessarily going into like what the classics are. So, like, in the case where you said, like, you had the Polish, the Slavic, the Irish culture, and all that kind of stuff, and that stuff blends really well into it. Where I grew up in Albuquerque, it's just like, yeah, Mexican, Native American food's pretty good. We have a decent Vietnamese population, so a lot of Vietnamese food is pretty good. And then we put green chili on everything, so as long as you like green chili, it's all good. I'm getting my shipment of green chili in soon from my mother for my birthday, and I'm very excited.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, she sends me a whole bag full, and we roasted it at my in-laws' place, and so it basically just reminds me of home, and then I basically have to make that last a whole year.
You got to import your food, unfortunately.
Oh, it's absolutely true. Apparently, my college has an alumni association out of DC, and they actually do like a green chili roast outside of DC every year. I never get invited, but like they have the whole thing that they do, and like they do like tacos and stuff outside of DC with green chili in it, so that's always fun.
Very nice.
All right.
Before we move on from food, one last thing about Denver cuisine. Casa Bonita has always been bad. That's the joke. We take people there that we don't like.
Good to know.
If Trey Parker and Matt Stone fuck it up and make their food anything more than just slightly edible, I will be so mad.
You're like, that's not the point.
It was very funny because actually a few years ago, Seth's ex actually messaged me asking me about good Mexican food in Albuquerque, and I was just like,
Oh yeah.
what do I tell her?
Give her actual recommendations.
I gave her the generic stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's New Mexico. Like, it's hard to go wrong. Here are the kind of standard places. If you want more of the chain style stuff, go here. If you want more of the local style stuff, go here.
She went down there for a Knocked Loose show. Can you fucking believe that?
It was funny because she actually missed me by a week. Because I had
really?
I had just left Albuquerque and went back to DC when she messaged me.
That's funny.
I was mostly just shocked that she was messaging me. I was just like, oh, shit, what?
Yeah. No, she's friendly. She's great.
Oh, no. But nothing but nice to me.
Yeah. She's like my best friend. Just because we broke up doesn't mean I'm gonna,
no, I see you guys
expect you to be mean to her.
I see you guys in comment sections all the time, just like, just taking the piss all the time.
Yeah.
Which is healthy.
She's the only one I have a higher streak on TikTok with than you.
I was about to say, you and Emily are kind of neck and neck right now. Brie never sends me anything, so it's never going to happen with Brie.
I don't go on TikTok enough because TikTok upsets me a lot of the time. But I appreciate the things you sent me.
I mean, I had on the topic doc before I deleted it when they announced that the Oasis reunion was on here, and I just had on the topic doc and was like, do people like Oasis?
Evidently. Hey, that Wonderwall.
I was just about to say, I know 3 songs and most of them are memes.
Yeah, actually all the ones I know are memes.
Anyways, speaking of memes, Concord, a live service game that was made by a Sony studio, is getting shut down after just 2 weeks of being live.
Oh.
That's quick.
Yeah, so I remember when this game got announced during it wasn't Summer's Game Fest, it was whatever PlayStation's Play Days or something like that was. It was during their Ghost of E3 announcements. It was one of their first headliner stuff, and everybody was like, what the hell is this game supposed to be? And then it turned out to be a 5v5 sort of Overwatch clone, and everybody collectively rolled their eyes. And this was a very high budget, hundreds of millions of dollars went into the development of this game, and just basically came out and flopped super hard. I think they had total of barely low triple digits of concurrent players playing at one time, which when you have a 5v5 online shooter is not good.
No, I think the article, the IGN article you sent, said that they had 600 something active players.
Yeah,
which is nothing.
Yeah, it was just kind of just probably one of the worst launches you can have for a AAA title type game, and it just kind of goes to show that how out of touch are these gaming companies at this point? Because it seems like they're kind of swinging and missing more often than they used to.
Well, a lot of the games they're putting out are live service games.
Yeah.
Like an Overwatch. We had just earlier this year, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which was just that again.
Yeah, a lot of people have been comparing this to that flop, and that cost Warner Brothers Discovery, former employee here, hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue because of how badly that performed.
Yeah, no, I believe it. And I think studios have the problem of seeing one thing be successful, and they're like, well, if we just do that, that'll replicate that success.
Yeah.
And it's no, you actually have to put out a good product and something that people actually want. And most of us are getting really sick of live service games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've never even heard of this fucking game. I was in fact, I had a hard time Googling it because it did not come up right away. So that's already a really fucking good sign. I was like, Concord game on this console.
Wow. I mean, they were able to scrub that really quickly. I mean, I think it got shut down today. Today was their shutdown day. So it's officially off, it's off storefronts and everything now. They refunded everybody, which is a cool move.
All 600 people.
Well, they got into the hundreds of thousands of sales, but concurrent base. But yeah, they refunded everybody. It was a $40 game, people were kind of saying like, yeah, this should really be free to play, especially if you're trying to make this a live service game, because live service, you're expecting people to be like buying battle passes and skins and everything else. But like, yeah, kind of like going to Seth's point, like everybody's getting burnt out on live service games, and it's kind of gotten to a point where, like I think every big game developer, whether it's a Sony, a Microsoft, Epic, whoever, are like trying to get these big service games because they're looking for that infinite money glitch. They're looking for that thing that like will last decades and people will just keep on paying microtransactions and they'll just keep collecting money without having to do any real work on the back end. But they just need to have it hit right out the gate. And, those hits are coming fewer and far between, I think, because everybody's either burnt out on this style of game or they've already found the one that they like.
Which is typically Fortnite.
Yeah, it's
in
Fortnite,
the live service
it's
game
World of
era.
Warcraft. I mean, World of Warcraft is like over 2 decades old, and people still pay money to play that game.
Yeah, I can't talk to my boyfriend right now because of it, so I understand.
Ooh, is there a new one out?
They just launched another expansion, which is like, and apparently they're on the roadmap now for like 3 more expansions, and then they're allegedly coming out with the sequel 25 years later.
I've heard some things about the sequel. A lot of people have been joking that it's going to be you play part of like the Taliban and you like do 9/11. Is that what I'm hearing? It's not a joke. This is something I've heard, and I can't tell if the people in the videos are making a joke or not.
In like 2004, I think.
Oh, all right. That's a bit soon for most people, I think.
But like, it just goes to show, like, World of Warcraft is like 25 years old, and like, it still has a congruent player base. They have people who pay for the expansions, and then they also still have to spend $15 a month to stay on and play. And it's just like, that's like, the idea of me having to pay $15 a month just to play one video game is insane to me. And it's probably one of the main reasons I never got into World of Warcraft, because like that's just a mental hurdle I just can't get over. But
no, that's fair.
But that's the model that everybody is chasing. They want that game specifically that is just going to just keep collecting money forever. And it's just like hitting that is just not working anymore. And especially when it's so obvious that that's what the goal is, it makes everybody kind of tune out. Yeah. And I think what they also specifically did wrong with this game is that it was basically an Overwatch clone. It was not like an original idea. It was
worse, like nothing about the marketing or even the name Concord is not like, I feel like they didn't even half-ass this. It's like quarter-ass this. They're just like, I don't know. I think the kids like shooters and like ladies sometimes. Just do that.
Yeah, well, like the trailer that they showed off last summer was like, it had like this Guardians of the Galaxy like heist vibe that they were kind of doing. And like, it's like a random ragtag group of characters that all had special abilities. And it's like, you watch the cinematic trailer, it's like, okay, so is this like a Payday 2 style heist game? Because that could be kind of cool, like having that style of game in this kind of setting. And then when it's revealed that it's a 5v5, hero shooter, everybody just collectively was just like, ugh.
We got those, thank you.
Yes, it's just like, it's like we have Overwatch and Valorant, and we're Overwatch has already kind of like worn people out. At this point, like it used to be the biggest thing in the world, and now it's just like people have kind of just been like, yeah, just it wears on people. So
it is.
What I would recommend to any studios listening is stop trying to make everything live service, and stop just copying other games, and maybe try to come up with an original idea.
That's scary, though. They don't want to do that. Existing IP only.
but
give us a brand new Guitar Hero and charge $2 for additional songs. There's your infinite money.
That's what they were doing for a while. Like it came to a point where, like with Guitar Hero and Rock Band, where it's just like, why do you need to make a new game? Just keep putting out song packs every like couple of months, and like you'll basically just keep collecting money on the same game. People have been talking about this with sport games, like with Madden and FIFA, where it's just like, do you really need to make a whole new game from the ground up? Can't you just patch that, update the rosters, and just keep it going? But like, it's like, no,
Yeah.
because then we're not going to get $60 from everybody who wants to play. And that's what that comes down to. But it is one of those things where it's just like, going back to the whole thing about existing IP, Suicide killed the Justice League, did not work. Tried to copy Overwatch, did not work. Do you think you're going to release a competitive military shooter with COD and Battlefield still going right now and have that make any kind of money? Absolutely not. Like, quit trying to do what everybody else is doing. Like, just...
Are there successful live service games? Like, is that a thing?
Well, we mentioned WoW. And
yeah, I guess that's fair.
Fortnite, that's been going for a very, very long time. Like, they exist, but they typically exist specifically as, like, they either have to be legacy, free-to-play, or just, like, flat-out just kind of thing. And the thing with the free-to-play model is that there's a balance that you have to have with it for it to be successful.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be, like, one, you should just be able to jump in and play the game and, like, never touch a microtransaction, a store menu, or a gacha mechanic. But they have to still be there for the people who want them. Because, let's be fair here, the gacha mechanics, super predatory. Like, they're basically looking for children and anybody with a gambling addiction to try and exploit. But they're going to have them in there. But it has to be something where the people who have zero interest in that never touch it. You have to maintain a player base. And that's what Fortnite has done very, very well, where it's just like, I could just jump in and play Fortnite. Like, there's nothing stopping me. And, like, if I want to go to the store page and see what kind of skins and stuff I can buy, cool. Otherwise, I can ignore it and still just play the game. That seems to be the model that works.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Video games. Modern gaming.
Yep.
Just play indie games. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, stop chasing infinite money. Going. Speaking of infinite money, Chase Bank.
Oh my god.
This is the thing that's been all over my For You page this week. That and the OnlyFans models who are mother and daughter. But that's a different story. The Chase
that's
Infinite
a For
Money
You page.
For Seth.
It's just fucking check fraud. And these people are, like, confessing to it, freaking out about it, posting their details on when and where they did it.
Filming themselves dancing in front of the ATM. So I'm just like, so the scene of the crime and all the faces of all the people committing that crime. Cool.
See, I didn't get onto this entire trend until it was, like, people specifically having the exact conversation we're having. It's like, so, check fraud?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't see anything, like, of the people actually engaging in the activity. I just saw the people being like, so check fraud. The thing my stepmother has a mugshot for right now. For floating bad checks. Got it.
Well, I mean, haven't we all written a bad check? I've only ever written rent checks, and they were all bad. But no, a lot of the videos that I got were people, like, in their car with just wads of money showing off, like, being like, look what I did. I got it. I figured it out.
I just, like, it's, if there's, like, the MLMs, all of these, if it's a get rich quick scheme, it's a scheme.
It's gonna get you in jail somehow.
Like, 100%. It is a crime, or you're getting swindled. There is no, like, I feel like most people should know this at this point. I just don't understand how this.
And the worst part about it is like, it's defrauding somebody who has all of your information. They know exactly who you are.
All of
they
it.
Have all your info. Like, it's not even like you're, like, posing as somebody else. Like, writing the check in somebody else's name. You're just like, ugh. But I did kind of notice something from the things I have seen is that there does seem to be a certain socioeconomic class that were partaking in the activity, to which
it does feel very targeted. And I'd be interested to see the owners of the accounts on 4chan that initially started posting this.
Yeah,
because that kind of feels like we're putting crack in the
that was the vibe. To be less politically correct, I noticed that, like, a lot of the people seemed to be in poor and people of color and a lot of the other kinds of stuff. And I was just like, yeah, this feels very exploitative, and that, you know, you were specifically targeting. And so kind of,
I really don't, after that comment, I don't know how I feel about the fact that I found out about this a week ago before people started getting caught.
Oh no.
I was targeted for this.
Well, we saw you were really into whippets, so how do you feel about infinite money, Seth?
This dude, he's buying a bunch of like Galaxy gas. What fuck? Fucked up my own joke. Forget it. I'm poor. That's the route I was getting to.
But like, regardless, so I guess, and I have this on the topic doc, it's like, so who do we blame for this? Do we blame the financial institutions for not having the guardrails against this kind of stuff? Because like, at a certain point, you should have a certain level of like somebody writing themselves a check for like a shit ton of money. There should be something that in your system that stops that. Do we blame education systems for basically failing people from having poor financial literacy and understanding of basic laws and how certain things work? Or do we blame, again, internet misinformation and like the 4chan type people who specifically put this out in an exploitative way? Like,
all of the above, honestly.
Yeah,
I feel like
especially the big answer is yes. But
yes.
like, but there's a compounding pieces of issues that lead to this, and like, I feel like a lot of the attention has kind of been brought on, like, God, these people are so stupid for doing this. Which, yes, but what created this situation? What's the underlying cause here? And that's kind of, I think, the thing that we should be looking at.
We talk about it every week, but it's fucking capitalism in our modern economy. It has made people it's made people so destitute that when they hear about an infinite money glitch, they're willing to try it so that they can get out of the situation that they're currently in financially.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think, and I'm sure I've mentioned this on the pod before, but just like, I didn't get personally financially literate until about a year ago because the information out there is just fucking bad. I was even chatting with my parents about this. They're like, wow, we really failed you. We didn't teach you this. I was like, you didn't know that you had to. Like, we're not taught these things in school. And if you like, all the advice online is the same advice they've been giving for like the last like 200 fucking years. I forget that guy's name, like something Ramsey, but he's a fucking moron. He blames everybody.
Dave Ramsey, I know exactly what she's
Dave Ramsey,
about.
That's the one. But yeah, he like goes on there.
The one who
like,
couldn't actually open a restaurant.
But it's just like they give this like shitty advice. I'm just like, oh well, you gotta save 50% of your paycheck. You gotta do. It's just like that's not the fucking world we live in. Like I couldn't afford rent. In fact, my financial advisor the other day just told me that I am house poor, which is a very common a phrase I never heard before. But that is how most people are these days because we don't make enough money. Things are too expensive. And yeah, to your point, Seth, like. I do kind of empathize if there was a way to quickly get money, you're like, wow, I can make my situation so much fucking better in a day. I understand, especially in the most destitute of places, just like, oh my God, I could pay my rent with this. Oh my God, I could quit this awful job that's fucking killing me. I get that. And it just, I think honestly, the biggest thing is the lack of education and, not to sound conspiracy theorist at all, but it feels it's on purpose that we're not financially literate because it is very easy for us to go into credit card debt and then just be in debt for fucking ever. So.
And like going to kind of your point you were making with like the MLMs and stuff like that, like how people fall into these traps where it's just kind of like they get presented with information, whether or not the information is true or accurate is completely up in the air. And then it also kind of comes down to they make it so complicated in understanding. Like that's how crypto and NFTs and shit like started kind of going big. It's just like, and anytime anybody like stop and question, it's just like, well, how the fuck does that work? And then they're just like, you just don't get it, man. Whenever you call them out on it, it's just kind of like, no, I don't get it because it doesn't make sense. And it's like one of those things where it's just like, yeah, but like, as you say, like if you're in a desperate enough situation, it's just like, I don't care if it makes sense. If it gets me out of the situation that I'm in, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to lose?
I think the going rate is like 20 to 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, good luck prosecuting that many people for that amount of time. But then also, like, again, going back to who this was targeted at.
Yeah.
You made the whole introducing crack into a neighborhood thing is like, this feels a lot like that in a lot of ways. So
It does kind of.
and that's also kind of like where I was kind of going, where it's just like, at what point do we need to kind of like maybe rein in some of these online trends that cause actual harm? Because
I saw a fucking post. Like, one thing that Twitter did do that I like is fact checking.
yeah,
And
until Elon got
I saw a post. Yeah, until Elon got there. Fucking. I saw a post the other day though that was like, when are we going to start calling fact checking what it actually is? Censorship. And I was like, oh, you're fucking dumb. Oh,
you're just an idiot. Okay, cool. There's no saving this one.
oh, so I'm not allowed to share my opinion? It's like, no, I get to tell you you're wrong and show you why you're wrong and call you a dumbass for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not censorship. That's how free speech works. You say something wrong and I tell you you're wrong. You got to say something wrong and I got to correct you. Free speech.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought facts didn't care about your feelings, and now you're calling them censorship?
That's always my favorite.
That's situational, Seth. What do you mean? That's wild.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
was I
robbing
supposed to
banks
answer that
used to be
question? I'm
way
sorry.
cooler. Remember when we used to like put on like the bandanas and like break in and just like just shoot guns up in the air and tell everybody to get down? That was the golden age of robbing banks. Now we're just like writing
It
bad
really
checks.
was. Yeah. Sucks. I miss that.
Thanks a lot, Biden, probably.
Make robbing banks fun again.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to be running on this November.
Official stance of the show.
And tax churches. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes.
And the most lethal military in the world.
That's what we need. Uh-huh.
Hang on, I need a little bit more of my old fashioned real quick.
Yes.
All at once.
Cool.
Whew.
Anyways, I think that's bringing us close to the end here. So, unless anything wants to get brought up.
Linkin Park has a new singer, and evidently she's a Scientologist who defends Danny Masterson. So
Yeah, I saw that.
I got to have exactly 12 hours of being happy that Linkin Park was back, and now it's ruined.
Yeah, I saw the thing about the Scientology and Danny Masterson thing. I guess she was born into Scientology. I don't know if she's currently practicing, but the Danny Masterson thing was kind of a hang up.
That's the one I can't get over.
Yeah, that's the because you can forgive people being born into religious situations, Seth.
And unlearning that, I get that.
But
It's real hard.
But yeah, the defending Danny Masterson, that's a little bit harder. I
always be a girl's girl, just to any women out there. Be a girl's girl all the time, and also believe victims. That's it, and that's all.
Yeah.
Amen.
But yeah, I did make the point with the Linkin Park thing, because I saw like videos talking about it and like how of course there was people who were going to be pissed about it besides the Scientology and Danny Masterson things for guess what, sexism and other reasons. Yep. But yeah, I made the point, and it's just like it's kind of like when Matt Skiba was in Blink-182 and everybody hated on him for the fact that he wasn't Tom DeLonge for no other reason than that. And I was just like, first off, I'm more of an Alkaline Trio fan than I am a Blink-182 fan, and I love Matt Skiba. And I actually think California is my favorite Blink-182 album. Come at me, bro.
Hot take, I think. I don't like Blink-182.
I don't either. Okay, thank God.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But like, I love Matt Skiba. I like Alkaline Trio. I think actually he's a better musician than Tom DeLonge. And I was just like, the only reason you guys are hating on him is just the fact that he's not Tom DeLonge. And for no other reason.
Nah.
And like, a lot of the hate she was getting was specifically because she's not Chester. And I was just like, well, guess what? The difference here is Chester's not coming back.
Yep.
And
unfortunately enough,
that sucks. But get over it.
But you gotta embrace the new, right?
I know a lot of people were saying like, well, maybe they should have just come back as something else. I was just like, yeah.
Why? What would that have done?
Yeah, like the only other comparative thing I can think of is when Rage Against the Machine broke up and they did Audio Slave with Chris Cornell.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a completely different vibe from Rage Against the Machine. Like, it didn't have the
Yeah.
hip hop thing. Like, Chris Cornell's not a rapper like Zach De La
No.
Rocha is. It's like, but yeah, it's like it's still the core of Rage Against the Machine. Tom Morello, Brad, and everybody else. It was just swapping singers, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah, just they're not. Yeah, it's not the same band. It's not the same vibe.
Well, and they weren't doing Rage Against the Machine songs. They were doing all new material, kind of like an Alter Bridge Creed situation.
Like, they maybe played Killing in the Name of at a concert every now and again, but like they were making their own original music. They were doing completely different things. This is a completely different scenario. But yeah, just, and like whoever they brought on was not going to get accepted by Linkin Park fans. I knew that wasn't going to happen. It just happened to be this one person who they brought on.
Yeah. Ugh.
These are bands that I listen to.
So Brie now has to recommend albums
I like
to listen
music.
to. Well, she's already upset that Seth's going to Green Day this weekend, so.
I am. Listen, you could spend your money however you want to, I guess, theoretically.
It's going to be great. They're playing American Idiot from start to finish.
Oh, God, I wish I was there. But
yeah, they're doing it's.
Love that for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the 30th anniversary of Dookie, 20th anniversary of American Idiot. So they're playing both records start to finish.
God. Screw the Ren Fair. I'm flying out to Denver right now.
I got floor seats.
Ooh, nice.
Ah.
So,
enjoy. Be safe.
So disguise myself as homeless person mug, Seth for tickets, and then.
Exactly.
It was such a cute no.
Oh. Thank you.
Anyways, so that's all we have for the show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Brie, it is your turn for homework assignments.
Hell yeah. I previewed this a little bit. I was almost going to change it because, fun fact, I've never seen the original Spider-Man movies, but I think we're going to save that for another day. So I would like to do Umbrella Academy. And the first season for sure, if you get through the first two, that would be excellent. But yes, Umbrella Academy. So
okay,
cool.
Because the series just ended and I have feelings about it. A lot of people do. So I'd love for you to get an exposure to it.
And if you don't like it, just go listen to Black Parade. It's fine.
Same thing.
Yeah. Exactly the same.
Written by Jared Way, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make a lot of My Chemical Romance jokes next episode, so get ready for that.
I'm here for it, honestly. So and if you get through more, that's awesome. It's just the first two seasons are the best seasons.
Yeah,
so.
that's what I've heard. I've heard that the last two seasons kind of fell off.
Yep. I watched the last season last week, and I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing about it. So.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of complaints online for that one, but we'll see. I'll definitely get for the first two seasons, and we'll see how I'm feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for spending a Friday night with me. I appreciate it so much. You guys are always amazing. I am TCK Media on most platforms. You can find me on YouTube. I'm going to try to get back on streaming pretty soon, but I'm a little bit burnt out at the moment, so, bear with me. You have That Seth23, who you can find on TikTok every now and again. He always has takes on George R.R. Martin and how he should be working on writing his goddamn books. And then you have Raccoonaloon herself, Brie. You can catch her podcast every other week on Game Birds, where they talk about indie games. It's a very, very good show. I've been enjoying it highly. That comes out.
It is very
typically
good.
The same.
I finally listened to it.
It comes out on the Mondays-ish. Around the same week that these shows come out. So if you see Internet Friends show, just know that a Game Birds is probably just around the corner. But it's very fun. If you like listening to Brie talk about indie games and you don't like listening to me and Seth, we totally understand. You should watch Game Birds. And that's pretty much all we have. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
And scene.